Hello fellow programmers, this is Pavel with an exercise from Visual C# How to Program. This is chapter 8, exercise 34. This is one of those making the difference exercises from the book, and it's called polling. What we will be doing is creating a little program that can be used to capture user responses and we will evaluate them. Alright, so here's what the assignment says. The internet and the web are enabling more people to network, join calls, voice opinions, and so on. The presidential candidates in 2012 used the internet, blah blah blah, whatever. In this exercise, you'll write a simple polling program that allows users to rate 5 social consciousness issues from 1, least important, to 0, to 10. Which is most important, from 1 to 10. So it says pick 5 causes that are important to you and use one-dimensional array called topics of type string to store the 5 causes. To summarize the survey, use a 5-row, 10-column, 2-dimensional array responses of type integer, with each row corresponding to an element in topics array. So we will have 5 causes, so we will have 5 rows, 1 for each of the causes, and then the 10 column will hold the values from 1 to, there will be 1 through 10, and each of them will hold the responses that the users give. So when the user rates something with 5, then the element 5 in the column for that particular topic will have a certain value. We will simply be adding, the way I'm gonna do it is I'll be adding 1 to it. Alright, so when the program runs, it should ask the user to rate each issue, and they want us to have friends and family respond to survey, but I will be the friends and family for this exercise, and then we will have the program display a summary of the results, including a tabular report with the 5 topics down the left side. In other words, it will be 5 topics like that, and then the left side, and the 10 ratings across the top. So it will be the list of the topics will go down, and from left to right will be the 1 through 10 ratings for each topic that receive some ratings. So now to the right of each row we should have an average of the ratings. So at the end, after the column 10, there will be a column called average, which will have the average response for each of the topics. Now each issue receive the highest point total. We will display both the issue and point total, and the same for the lowest. So we'll be doing a lot of arrays, which means we'll be doing a lot of loops. And yeah, let's get to code. Okay, so I have my main method. Everything will be in the main method. This is not an object-oriented programming exercise, so everything will be stuck in the main method. So the first one, they want us to call string an array called topic or topics, which is a new string array, of course, and we will initialize them to 5 of the topics that are important to us. So now the question I'll be asking is, I don't know, like what is the biggest threat to the United States, for example, and the user will be rating that. So the threat number 1, yeah, terrorism, of course. And next one, or the biggest problem, maybe not a threat so much, but the biggest problem. The second one would be, let's say, economy. The third one could be, I don't know, let's make it inequality. The last one will be racism, and the last one, I don't know, how about stupid politicians? That's a big problem everywhere. So now that this is our 5 5 topics that we will be asking the user to kind of rate as for which one is the biggest problem the United States faces. And of course I missed my equal. So now we have our array. Now looking at this, hold on a second, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So it's 18. This is the longest topic, it's 18. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make each of them spaced out evenly, because remember, we will be using a tabular output, so I will add the spaces appropriately. So this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. There you go. And okay, so now when they output one after another, you know, they will kind of line up nicely. That's just for the kind of like an eye appeal. Okay, now let's go do the responses, which is 2-dimensional array. So we have I'll call it responses, and we will initialize it to an array of integers. Remember, 5 rows and 10 columns. So 5 rows that will correspond with this array, basically with the values in this array, and 10 rows will be for the rating. And we need to find what else do we need to find? We need a response, the actual response or single response from each user. So that's gonna be an integer. And since we are going to be calculating averages, I know that we will need total responses. I'll initialize them to 0, and we will need total users or total responders, but I'll call them users. It's easier to remember. So that way we can calculate the averages. All right, so, and I will need one more, and we'll need since we are going to be asking several people, we need a boolean that will simply say not finished. I'll initialize it to true, and we will be asking people until not finished equals false. So while not finished, so while not finished equals true, we will be asking our questions. Now with each question we will add 1 to the total users. Again, this is to calculate later the averages. So every time we do a question, or before we do a question, we'll simply add 1 to the user. And now we can write the question, something like this, I don't know. Please rate in scale 1 to 10 which issue is which is the biggest issue USA is facing today, or biggest problem, whatever. Okay, so now we have the question, and now we have to loop through our topics and let the user reply. Okay, so terrorism, all right, how about 9? Economy, maybe 7 or 10 or whatever the user wants. Inequality, the user will assign a number or the response to each of these issues based on what they perceive to be the biggest problem. 10 is the biggest problem, or how big of a problem it is. Not which one is the biggest, but how big. Actually, that would be a better stated probably. It's how big of a problem for the United States the following. I don't know how to even really state it. Please rate in scale 1 to 10 how big of a problem for the United States the following issues are the following issues. All right, so now they will be kind of rating them. Okay, terrorism is biggest problem, let's say, so he rates it 10. Economy is second biggest, maybe 9. Maybe inequality, they don't consider a problem, so it might be 3, whatever. So that's not really the point. We will make some our own values anyway. So we go into loop, and we're going to loop through rows. There's 5 of them, so r is less than 5 and r plus plus. So now we display the individual issue one at a time. So we will write console dot, and we will write not a right line but a right, because after the issue is displayed, the user will be entering the response right next to it, not under it. So I will, everything will be in one line. So that's why console.write, and that's the topics, and the topics we display is corresponding with the index r. So it starts with 0. So topics element 0 is terrorism. Then r will be 1, so it will display economy. Then it will display the third index, which would be inequality, and so forth, until all of them are displayed. And but we don't want the spaces. These spaces are for later display, when we output the final table. So over here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to trim the white spaces from each of them, and I will add, semicolon or something like this. So basically, it will display terrorism, and then we display a space. And then now we need, after this space, user will be able to enter the response. So our response equals, and it's an integer, so we will convert it to integer, console.readLine. Okay, so now the user entered a response. Now we have to register the response. We have to add it to our which I misspelled. It's responses. Okay, so to our, I'll now rename it to responses. So our responses, and which one am I gonna add it to? Well, I'm gonna add it to obviously R, which is the row. So in other words, this is the response for example, the first one, which is terrorism. So that's the row. And over here, I'm going to add it to one of the columns. So if user enters 9, I'm going to enter I'm going to add 1, just the number 1, to column number 9. If it enters 8, like it's a problem from 1 to 10, he says, oh, it's about 8, so I enter 8 into column, I enter 1 into column 8. So, and the index corresponds with the response itself. The response will be the index that we are looking for. So it's the response, but since this is a zero-based array, when user enters 8, we are adding 1 to element 8, which is actually 7, because it starts from 0. So we need to do -1. Or is it +1? We'll see. Plus equals 1. Okay, so again, if yeah, it's -1. If user, again, it displays terrorism, please rate it. The user says, all right, terrorism is on scale 1 to 10 a problem 7. So now we come over here, we'll locate the row which corresponds with terrorism, which would be the R, the current R, and then we will move or add 1 to the column number 8, if your response is 8. And column number 8 is actually element 7, because it starts from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which would be the 8th element. So now we have our responses, element 0, So basically over here, if for the first run, basically our responses, element 0 and 7 will now hold a value of 1. And if another user enters the same response, then we will add 1 to it. So now it will have a value of 2. And that's how we will determine which of these problems or issues is being the most voted for. All right, so that's how we capture the response. Now, after that, that's really all. It loops through all 5 of them, and the user replies or adds a value to each of them. So that's all the user has to do. Now we have to simply ask if you want to enter another user. Do you want to enter input from another user? Yes or no? All right, so and over here, so the user enters yes or no, and if console.readLine, I'll convert it to upper, so I don't have to do check for lowercase and uppercase. I will simply convert it to upper right away. If that equals to n, capital N in this case, in other words, if user doesn't want to, if we are done entering responses from any user, if everything is done, then our not finished will equal to false, and we will exit out of the loop. All right, and if the user enters anything else, really, then we keep and add another response from another user. But before we do that, we can maybe do like a console.clear just to clear the responses from the user and have everything ready for the next one. Okay, so over here I will do console.readLine just to pause the screen. So now we have the responses in the array. Now we have to output them. So in order to output them, we need a like a column. So console.writeLine. This will be like the header, the top header. And remember, we need the longest word that will be displayed is stupid politicians, which is 18 characters long. So I'm going to do, let's say, 20 spaces. That's the first 20 spaces, and then it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are the responses. Over here we will display how many ones, how many twos for each issues were collected from all the users. So and to do that, we of course need another loop, and it's going to be integer, let's say r again equals 0. I do use r because we loop through rows rather than columns, and r plus plus. Now, first thing that we need to write is the name of the issue. So we need to write terrorism, economy, inequality under each other. So over here we will be writing console.write, not write line, just write, and we will write the what was it called again? Topics, and once again it's the index of r, and we will add a space between each, so that they should kind of line up under the numbers this way. And after that, so we will go into a loop and calculate the actual responses. This is simply going to display terrorism, and now we will, under each of these numbers, we will write how many responses were there for each of the numbers. So again, we go to another loop, and now we're going to be looping through columns. So and there are 10 of them now. All right, so 10 columns. Let's see, and oops, I forgot C here. and C++. Come on. Oh, that's because I forgot a semicolon. So C is less than 10 and C++. So now we are going to be displaying the columns themselves. So console.write, again write because we will be doing one row at a time. We want them all next to each other. And this time we are going to be doing the responses. Responses of the R and C. Those are the indexes. R is the raw, so it's for the raw of terrorism. And C, it will be looping 10 times, so from 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through 10. So and now after that we will do, I don't know, was it 2 spaces between these numbers? I think so. So 2 spaces there. Okay, so that should output the responses, and let's see if that's gonna work, or at least if it's gonna line up for now. It's not finished, not yet, but I want to build it to make sure that I didn't introduce any errors. Okay, so now please rate in scale big of a problem the following issues: terrorism, I'll say, alright, 10, economy, 8, inequality, I don't know, 7, racism, 9, stupid politicians is like 100, but we only do 1 through 10, so let's make it 10 again. And let's try, I don't want another user. And we got it all across. But so this is our column 1, 2, 3, 4, and here are our, oh, you know what happens, I forgot. After this number, we go to another topic, we need to move to another new line. So that's an easy fix. After we output each of these under each of the numbers, after we will do console dot write line for to get to a new line. So let me try that again. So again, I'll do 10, 9, 8, let's say 9, and stupid politicians 10. And it's almost line up, but here is our header. Here's our terrorism, economy, inequality, racism, and stupid politicians. And here are our responses. Our responses: terrorism to 10, stupid politicians to 10. 9 was our economy and racism, and inequality I rated 8. It's just that some of these, so what is it? Basically, the inequality and economy needs one more space. Inequality and economy needs one more space somewhere in there. So let's try this again. I'll just do 10 for each. And now, kind of, they are neatly lined up, except over here I will do somewhere in here I will do either less space or add one more space afterwards, like this. So now hopefully it will be all lined up. Let me see. And there you go. So we have the table with the header and the left column, and here are the values I added. We have one response with 10, value of 10 for terrorism, economy, inequality, and basically all of them. So that's how you display them. Now let me try to run it again, this time with let's say 2 users. So I'll go and yeah, I wanna do it again. So it clears the screen and it repeats the thing. So let's say this time it will be 8 and 7 and 9, whatever, and 6, and we're done. So now see, for example, this one I replied in both cases. Both users replied to or rated stupid politicians as about 6 on the scale from 1 to 10. So now we have 2. So because both of them voted 6 for this particular issue. All the others were just one. One user voted 10 for terrorism, the second user voted 9 for terrorism. The first user voted 8 for economy, the other voted 9 for economy. 1 for economy. So we have ones under 8 and under 9 as well. So, but this seems to be working, and it's all lined up. So now what we can do is start to calculate the averages and all that. So we have the tabular report. Now to the right of each row we should display average. So I come over here. After 10 I will type another column which would be average, and in order to calculate the averages, basically it is our total responses. We need to keep for each of the entry we need to add the responses together and then divide them by the users. So our responses are and see that's the one that we are currently using at the moment, like for each iteration of the loop. So we will add that, and we will multiply it, because remember, if I add, let's say 2 users vote 9 for terrorism, so together the points are 18. 2 times 9. So I will this is gonna be a little confusing. What's going to happen here is C plus 1. This is going to give us the total responses for each of the columns for each of the topics. This is the response for the current topic and the current value. So let's say the first user entered 9 for terrorism. All right, so we come over here, add 1, and then but now we have a second user and he enters 9 for terrorism as well. So now we have 2 over here under 9. So when we come over here, the total responses will equal to 2 times 9, 18. That's how many points altogether this particular topic, which would be terrorism, received from all the users. Let's say we had only 2 users, so it received 18 points. So we will, this is basically equals to 9, the element 9, but we need to multiply it by the I'm sorry, this equals to the topic. That's the raw. This basically responds to the terrorism. And over here, when we multiply it to C plus 1, C is the element that we are calculating. If you calculate in 9, then that's the element C plus 1. Again, because it's a 0-base array. You'll see when it's output. Hopefully it will make more sense. Anyway, so when we have that, after we do that, after we finish with each topic and move towards the next one, we output the new line, but we also have to reset the total responses to 0. Otherwise, we would just be adding to it. Now we are going to do the total responses for the next topic, so we start from 0 again. So, and we of course have to, so now we have the total responses. Over here we have the total users, so now we can do the average, and the average will be that's gonna be before we move to the new line, because this is part of the 11th column, the average. So our console.write is again only write because we continue the same row, and I will do something like it's gonna be 0 and 2. I want 2 decimal for the number, and the number will equal to the, that's how to calculate the average, is basically the total response divided by total users. So if we let's say 2 users entered 9 for terrorism, so it will be 18, 2 times 9, which we calculated here. So 18 divided by 2. So it will be, the average would be, of course, 9, because that's for in this case. Let's say if one entered 10 and one entered 8, so it would be 1 times 10 plus 1 times 8, so it would be 18 divided by 9, divided by 2 users equals average of 9. So, but since we are doing 2 decimal places, well, let me see if that's gonna work, if it's gonna display correctly. So I'm just going to concentrate on the first one, let's say the terrorism. I'm going to enter 10 for the first one. This, I don't know, something like this. And the second user will enter 8 for terrorism. So the average should be 9 for terrorism. So let's see if that's gonna work. 8, 7, 6. And it does. You can see the average for terrorism is 9. And we have 2 users, both entered economy for 9. So again, obviously the average is 9. 2 users entered 8 for the inequality, so the average is 8. I entered the same numbers actually, so but the average seems to be working. We just maybe need to space it out a little. So over here, I will add 1 space. So that's our averages. Now we need to find the lowest and the highest highest point. Okay, so let me see. So I'm going to declare a variable, and it's going to be another array, and I'll call it highest lowest because it will hold all the values together. And we have 5 topics, so it will have 5 elements. Highest, lowest. Oops, I forgot that. Yeah, it's an array. So now we have the array that will hold the, we'll be able to use to calculate the highest and the lowest response, or whatever issue has got the lowest and highest responses. Alright, so let me think about it really quickly. So after we do all this, we display it in tabular, and this is going to be all done under the table. After we output everything in a tabular, I will declare a variable called highest, and that will be our highest from the array. There will be element 0, integer, and another integer. This time it will be lowest, and that will also be initialized to the first element of the array, because we need to do a comparison. So I need to assign, let's say I'm gonna assume that the first element is both highest and lowest, and from there I can do the comparison and reassign new values to both these variables. Now first I need to actually populate the highest lowest array, and I'm going to do that right here. After we finish 1 row, let's say we finish the terrorism, I'm going to add the responses to this array. So our highest, lowest, and this is a one-dimensional, so it's gonna be the R index, which in case of terrorism it's gonna be index 0, and it will equal to whatever the total responses are. That's the sum of total responses. Alright, so let's say if the user entered 9, or if there are 2 users that entered 9, we calculated before, so it's going to be 18. So our element 0 of highest lowest will equal to 18. Alright, so I think that's I'll just comment it, add the total points. Alright, so well, total points, let's say for each issue or topic. So that's this array. So now when we come over here, we can do a little looping for integer I equals 1 and 1, because the element 0 is already assigned to our highest and lowest. So we are gonna compare this one with the next one, and then the next one, until we compare all 5 of them. So I is less than 5 and I plus plus. So now we're gonna find out the highest and lowest. So if our highest, lowest, that's the array of I, is greater than what is currently being held in the variable called in our variable highest, then we have a new highest number, right? So our highest equals whatever the value is in the highest lowest array in this index. But we need, one thing we need to do, we need to keep track of we have the number, the responses, but we also need to know what we are actually capturing. Are we capturing terrorism or inequality or racism? So we need to find a corresponding index for that. So over here I'm going to do let's say temp highest and initialize it to 0, because that will correspond with the, well, I'm just initializing to 0 really. The temp lowest initialize to 0. I don't think it has to be, but so when we find a new highest, we will store the index into our temp highest, and the index will correspond with the index of this in the topics. So if, let's say, the index equals 1, then we're talking about economy. So now we capture the temp highest will hold the index for the economy, and highest will hold the actual value for that particular topic. And we do the same for the lowest. So if highest, lowest, and again it's I, is less than lowest, then we have a new lowest, which equals, just like we have the highest, and our temp lowest now equals index I. So we found our values, and we found what the topic is being rated. So now we can output console.writeLine category or topic with highest point total is, and this will be the topic, it received, and this will be the actual points. So it received points. All right, so the first one is the topic, the topics, and the index will be the temporary temp highest. So temp highest, and the points that it received will be the highest, because we are doing the highest one now. Okay, so basically it will read, and this is not a semicolon, just a comma. It will read topic with highest point total is terrorism. It received 18 points, for example. And we'll do the same for the lowest, right under that. Topic with the lowest point total is it received, and this will be temp lowest, and over here it will be lowest. Okay, so let me try to run it and see what we get. I'll enter like 3 users. So terrorism, I'll enter 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. I want another user. This one will enter, let's say 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Another user, and this one I will do the same as the first one, so it will be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So now we have 3 users. So this one received 2 users entered 10 for terrorism, the one entered 5. So it averages 20, 25, yes, is it 8? It shouldn't be 8. It should be decimal points, because we got 2 times 10 is 20, of course. 1 times 5 is 5, so 25 divided by 3. So we are not capturing the points, but anyway, let me see. Topics with highest point total is terrorism, which it is. It's 8. It received 25 points, which it did. 25 points. And the topic with lowest is stupid politicians, which received 13 points together. So 2 users voted 6, so that's 12, and 1 wanted only 1, so that's 13 points. So though it works, all the average don't work well. They missing the decimal spots. So and I think that's because when we calculate them over here, it only takes it as an integer. So I'm gonna multiply it by 1 times 0, 0 m. So this should guarantee that it will keep the decimal places. It will not truncate it to an integer. And over here you could see I'm going to trim. Remember, we have these spaces over here again in our array. I'm gonna trim them down so it's not such a big space between the topic and the actual value. So I'll trim it here and I'll trim it here. So let's try it again. I'll try to use the same values just to see if it's working. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And this one will start with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the third one will have the same as first one, so 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And if I enter no, so we end. And now we have the decimal places for the averages. This is there's no long space between terrorism and it received portion of the console.write line. And you can see economy, again 2 users entered 9, so that's 18 points, plus 4, so that's 22 points. 22 divided by 3, if I can quickly do that, 22 divided by 3 is 7.33, so that's correct too. So this is how you would do it. You could loop as long as you want, really, and each time a user, if another user comes over here and says terrorism is I rated it to 5, so now under 5 terrorism would have 2. Alright, so every time a user answers or rates the topics, will add 1 to that particular column. Alright, so I'm pretty sure this was a little confusing, but as always, try to run it, copy the code, play with it a little. Now, one thing, we didn't check the user input. Obviously, user could enter any number now. You could enter 11 and nothing it would actually crash, because it would try, if I try over here, if I write 11, it's going to crash because it will go outside of the index for the array. There's only 10. So you should actually verify that the user entered value from 1 to 10. Also, right now, the user can rate all of these as 10, for example. You could kind of make a little upgrade to make sure that the user cannot enter the same value for 2 of the categories or 2 of the topics. So if he enters 10 for terrorism, he cannot enter 10 for any of the others. If he enters 9 for economy, no of the others can have 9. That's a little, upgrade you can do, and if you want to, it's not needed for this particular exercise, but something to get extra points if this is one of your school exercises. But as always, I hope it helped you, and I will see you next time. Take care.